Good morning. How you doing? This is Tony Williams from Veterans Council Veterans, and if those of you guys out there, Veterans Council Veterans is going to host its very own women veterans town hall, and the whole point of this town hall is to give women veterans. I know it says Central Florida, but really, because through time there's so much interest. This is gonna be all of Florida, and there'll be some other people from out of the state that's going to chime in so we can get an understanding of what it's going to take for women veterans to finally have a voice. So those of you guys, last week you may have, you saw me last week where I had a Maxine Reyes, Army veteran, Air Force and Army veteran, retired combat, and then we had Amy, also Army veteran and also combat on. And this week we're gonna have, I tell you, some exciting guests that I just excited about. Took us a while to get all the schedules all together. I had to keep calling the agent, call my agent, I call her agent. All right, so we got that together. So we finally got all the agents together and everything. That's all the way. So I got Gloria White Gardner. I mean, she's like, she was there during the Vietnam time when women veterans really had almost no respect. And we're going to learn really about how far we have come. And Gloria White will tell us that. Gloria White Gardner will tell us that. And then after that, we have Dr. Julienne Shin. And she started out in the Navy and then in the Marines and the psychologist stuff, which is I can't even understand how a Marine can be a PhD. That's still hard for me to process, but I'm still trying anyway. So she's been twice deployed. She mostly in Iraq, but she's done Afghanistan as well. But we need to hear their voice. But before we get to that, we need to do intro. Intro. Good. So here it is. I'm Elder Williams. I'm the CEO and president of Veterans Council Veterans. And some of you out there may say, hey, why is a male leading this? Why is it part of this women veterans thing? Why isn't a woman in charge of it? Well, first of all, you really need an entire village. It's just not the women's responsibility when it comes to advocating for women veterans having the rights that they earn. That's the first place. And secondly, I look at myself as being a support player. I'm a support role. Anybody done combat operations? We got the main effort. We got the supporting effort. I'm the supporting effort. And as long as I understand that, then we're good to go. As long as I understand I'm in the support role, not the main role. And I look at myself as the guy that comes over and starts the lawnmower, right? So I'll start the lawnmower, but it's the responsibility of the women veterans to actually mow the lawn because it's their lawn. They must have ownership. So that's why Veterans Council Veteran here. And we're going to sit there. And one of the reason why I picked Florida, because Florida has the second largest women veterans population in the nation. Question is, are you doing anything about it? Now, I did find out a couple weeks ago that the governor had stood up a women veterans task force, and you'll meet some of them on our broadcast on the 30th of September from 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern time. And so I always said that I like grass up. So this particular thing is on Zoom and sold out. So if you want to see us, you got to sit there and like us on LinkedIn. But Zoom has been sold out. But I always say that, first of all, it should be the question should be come from the ground up. So the women veterans out there need to tell us what the problem is, not the other way around. So it's important whoever does show up to this event, they got to go. They can't be shy. They got to come out and say, this is what I'm concerned about. The audience is very diverse. It's very important. But also what I always found when a grassroots organizations mostly have more participation because of they're out there day to day creating relationships, and relationships is very important. And it's even more important if you're talking about veterans. It's even more important if you're talking about women veterans. You have to have some kind of relationship if you want to get them out there and talk, and they really believe that you're here to listen. Well, before I get to my great guest, I want to mention something that I think is important when we start talking about women veterans that are going on.
Do you have the courage to act outwardly on what you see inwardly? Or will you die a dreamer? Will you die on the verge and on the edge and in the land of coulda, woulda, and shoulda? Do you have the courage? I'm going to drop something on you. It takes courage to be successful. It is far easier not to be successful. misery will always have company. Success breeds contempt. If you don't want to make waves, be mediocre. Be normal and fit in. And if you're more concerned about people than you are God, then neutralize everything he put in you. Just fit in with everybody else. Dress like them, walk like them, act like them, eat like them, go where they.
Whoo! I just love that video when I see that. I mean, you have to have the courage. As T.D. Jakes said, you have to have the courage. And these women veterans, and I just saw in there that those two women, Sergeant Marines, Sergeant Joanna Rosario and Sergeant Nicole G, they both had the courage. Not only they have the courage, but they earned the right to have a voice. And since they're not here, then it's up to us to make sure they have that right. And that's what we're going to do. And that's why I'm going to we're going to listen to, I think, these two ladies. They have the courage, and they're going to tell you what's going on. It's about being truthful. Speak. You got to speak power. You got to speak truth to power. And these ladies here, I have no doubt, will speak truth to power. So who do I have? I'm going to tell you right now. Gloria White Gardner is a Vietnam veteran. She served from 1960 to 63 and the neuropsychiatry ward in Fort Meade. And she's done more than that. But that's a piece that we're going to focus on as a veteran. And she has actually been a pioneer in every step of the way. And Gloria is going to give us a sense of setting the table. What exactly do women veterans have to go through? And is there much different? And then we have Dr. Julienne Shin. She's Navy Marine, PhD. She's going to tell us, has there been a difference? How far has we come? How far do we got to go? We're going to have two generational women talking about this. I think it's important, and it'll set the tone as we start getting ready for this town hall. So first, wisdom. I'm gonna put wisdom before youth. And that means we're going to bring on Gloria. All right. Gloria, how you doing? Welcome. Let me get you off mute, my problem. Okay. Oh, Gloria, you got to take yourself off. Oh, there you go. There you go, Gloria.
I'm off.
Okay, great.
I'm fine.
So,
I'm fine, Tony. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm so excited having you on here. I'm here right here to learn, right? This is about learning from people that I know that set the tone. Even though I'm a male, I'm here to learn. So Gloria, tell us a little bit about what you do and then tell us who you are.
Well, right at the present time, I'm a veteran. I live in Rockville, Maryland. I serve as the chair of the Montgomery County Armed Forces and Veteran Affairs Committee. All NAACP branches have a committee for armed forces and veteran affairs. I've been in this position for four years. Prior to that, I was living in Michigan, and here again, very active in veteran affairs. My time in the Navy dates back to 1960. I was real young, didn't know anyone that had been in the military. Was working as a registered nurse at Cook County Hospital in the emergency room, critical care section, and just busy trauma unit, and just overwhelmed. I was only just out of nursing school. I was barely 19 years of age, and loved every bit of it. Happened to be downtown one day getting some pantyhose, and to get back to work, you can't work with runs. Hospital was very much like the military. You got to be in uniform, and ran into a Navy nurse, and that did it. It seems like every day I was going back to spot that Navy nurse and find out just what I needed to do to become a Navy nurce.
Wow. Okay. So that, and are you still in contact with that lady, or she,
Oh no. Oh, she was, I was, like I said, I was barely 19, and she was already in her 30s. She's probably, I'm 80 now. I'm 81.
Yeah. So yeah, she's probably, that's,
yeah.
Yeah. So she had that, she had that impact on you. So, okay.
Yes.
So Gloria, you sit there and tell us how you went to the recruiting station, basic training. What happened?
Well, of course, when I went in as a non-commissioned officer. I was advised by my senator and several others to go in as a non-commissioned officer because of my age, and they just felt that later, if I wanted to become an officer, I could transfer over into that category. But you don't want to fail, and they just felt like you're young, but you're academically qualified, and we need nurses and we need psychiatric nurses. So let's just go in and start and see what happens. And so I went through orientation and basic and was assigned to the Naval Hospital in Bethesda and did all of my time in Bethesda at the Naval Hospital and loved every bit of it, because my family is a family of caregivers. The women are nurturers. My great grandmother was a nurturer. My grandmother, my mother, my father came from my mother's from a very small family. My father is from a family of 13, 8 boys and 5 girls, but all of them were taught to be their brother's keeper.
Wow. And then how was it being as a woman in the military at the time? Especially looking back, how was that in that whole environment?
Tony, you know that in the military you take orders, and there's protocol, and there's a hierarchy, and there's a process, and so you do your job, but you don't do a lot of questioning, and that is just not me and my family. You ask questions, you point out weaknesses, and you point out strengths, and whatever you can do to make the job easy. And of course, there was no other psychiatric nurse. There were nurses in that unit, but not a psychiatric nurse. And it was during the Vietnam era, and I was seeing guys coming in that had already been damaged by Agent Orange. So it was a very stressful and very critical time for them to get the best of care. And so, that was me. That was me.
And with the people the men that were there, especially, would they treat you with respect and that kind of stuff when they were addressing you? I mean, I know your rank was kind of at the NCO rank. Was they treat you with respect? Any kind of harassment going on back then?
Well, I did not face any, and then I didn't recognize it until much later. Yes,
Right.
quite naturally, walking through the hospital and on the grounds, you had to salute, and you're a non-commissioned officer, so you gave the utmost respect to officers. But when you're on my floor and you're in my ward, I'm in charge. That's the way I saw it. And the admiral would tell me, they call you by your last name, and he would say, White, you just upset this colonel, or you just upset this lieutenant junior grade, or I don't care, I don't care, I don't care about his stripes. What I care about are my patients. I said, so you need to let them know that the patient comes first. He says, but you need to know that you're not in charge. Well, until the day I left, I always thought I was in charge. Okay.
Okay.
I met more resentment and harassment, to tell you the truth, as a civilian at Cook County Hospital, because you are an RN. You don't question doctors. You don't challenge doctors. Um, you stay in your place. And my thing is, where is my place? Some
All right.
doctors treated me as if I had never been to nursing school, that I was not an RN, that I might have been what they called in those days a nurse's aide. You do the bedpan, you do the washing. But when things get tough in an emergency room, oh, they're looking for you. Who can do an IV? Who can start a transfusion? Who can do this? Who can do that? Then all of a sudden, I'm needed, I'm valued. But that could switch it quickly. I'm doing my job, and all of a sudden, find me a nurse. I'm here. So those kinds of things never happened to me in the Navy. So,
Wow.
but when you in a and I found the Navy to be very different than the Marine Corps and the Army and the Air Force. I never met any medics through the Air Force, but certainly in the Army. And at that time, Bethesda Naval was in Bethesda, Maryland, and Walter Reed was downtown DC, upper Northwest DC. So it was entirely different. They had a few RNs, but they had no neuropsychiatric nurses, and they had few nurses of color. In those days, of course, I was a Negro.
See, yeah. So not only do you have the problem being a woman, not a problem, but you also deal with being an African American, and they called Negro back in those days. Back in my day, Negro, but back then it was that Negro was a common term.
Right. There was no African American. There was no black. You were a Negro or you were colored. So over the years, I've gone from being colored to Negro to, and I prefer black. I prefer black. I do sometimes address myself as an African American, but I'm black. I'm a black woman.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to sit there. I appreciate we're going to come back to you. And I'm going to sit there and bring in Dr. Julienne Shin. And she, ironically, she was in the Navy too. So you guys got that in common. And we'll see where she's coming from. Now I'll bring you all back in. We're going to have a good conversation.
Okay.
So 1 second. All right. Hey, Dr. Julienne Shin, how you doing?
Hello, doing great. It's always good to connect with you whenever we can.
And you got a chance to hear what Gloria was talking about, and
yes.
So tell us, and tell us and I always say who you are and then what you do, because they're not the same.
Right.
Exactly. I didn't go to Gloria about daughters, son, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But tell us who you are and what you did, Dr. Julienne.
Well, I actually started out in the Marine Corps. So I was 17 when I came in. So Gloria was talking about Cook County Hospital. Absolutely familiar with it because I came from there. And you're very prepared for the Navy as a nurse. The hospital definitely prepared anybody. So I was 17 when I came in, and then I stayed until last year, actually. I just transferred to the Navy last year. So in the Marine Corps, I was actually, I started as an ammunition explosive technician, and then went to become an officer after 9/11 happened, because the main reason was because I didn't see a lot of, I was in an all male specialty, which the Marine Corps was all male at the time, majority actually, probably 1% of females. So I didn't have any good mentorship, and I didn't see any people of color as officers. It was just really rare to see one. So that was my motivator to become an officer after that. And then when I became an officer, I was a communication, a network officer, technician, or officer, whatever you want to call it. And then I became an intel officer when I left. So I actually had a few specialties in the Marine Corps because I was still trying to find my niche. And then after we were deployed in 2006 and 2007, I believe it was, that's when I started to explore my interest in psychology and mental health, and the way combat really impacted the mental health and well-being of service members, because I led a couple platoons of over 80 total, and I was older at the time when I deployed, probably not that much older, but I was in my 30s, and then they were from 18 to 28, I guess. So it was really heartbreaking to see how hard that losses and everything that surrounds combat, how it affected them during my deployments and afterwards. And that's what started my journey into thinking, okay, well, maybe this is the direction I want to take. I knew nothing about PhDs and PsyDs and being a psychologist at all, not at all. All I knew was that maybe that was the route I wanted to take. So instead of focusing on the enemy, I decided I wanted to focus on the good guys. And this is when I started my journey to becoming a psychologist. And last year, I finally did the transfer after I graduated, and here I am now in Portsmouth, Virginia, finishing my training here. Well, not training, but my first year in the Navy, and I'll be going off to my first duty station in a few months. So that's how I came to this point today.
Wow, so that's really interesting. Your journey is incredible. From 17, you said you started out in the Marines first?
Yes, I did at 1995. 17 years old, just trying to get out of Chicago.
Wow, and I know you mentioned about the women of color and just men and women of color, and then you're able to sit there and then go over to the Navy side, and then now you say you're doing training in psychology right now, and
it's more like an intro to the hospital and the medical field and as a psychologist. But the lack of females and the way females were I guess the way we were seen was evident from the beginning of when I first started in 1995. So it's a struggle I've been through not just as a woman, but of a woman of color, because they were basically no people of color in general everywhere I went. So it's been an interesting journey trying to figure out that journey on how I can play a role in, I guess, being a model for those that wanted to follow in my footsteps. So especially with combat, and then after that with the Afghanistan thing that recently happened. I mean, it's been all come to a head, realizing that my purpose, where I came to be at this point, was meant to be. I mean, was a path that was meant to be. And I'm glad. It was a very difficult journey, very difficult. It was not easy at all. And many times I wanted to give up because of what other people were saying, that I wasn't going to make it, or that just because I was a minority, it wouldn't be good for me. So I had a lot of pushback. But the Afghanistan thing actually made me realize that this was a good and right choice, even though it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
And I want to bring on Gloria in now, so we can have a good conversation. And how you doing, Gloria? Back. And what I want, you mentioned something. So as you well know, and I know, Gloria, you'll be there for my town hall that's coming up. But you had mentioned, Julian, about what Afghanistan, that kind of stuff, and then we had that debacle, whatever you want to call it, when they were evacuating Afghanistan,
right.
And you rarely seen anybody on that were women.
Yes,
you see a lot of guys talking about it, but you never see any women really talking about it. And I just want to get your sense of some of your thoughts when you saw, and there were two women that I had mentioned earlier. We had that had died. We had two of them. We had Marine Sergeant Nicole G, and we had Marine Sergeant Joanna Rosario. What were your thoughts? And I guess for both of you guys, even though I know that Gloria, you spent all your time with Bethesda. What were your thoughts when you saw all that stuff unroll with Afghanistan? And you think there's a difference between how maybe women may deal with it versus the males? And I'll start with you, Julian, since you I know you did Iraq and you had a couple stints in Afghanistan. I'll start with you, Julian.
Well, there's actually, so I'm a part, because I'm now Navy as well, I'm actually part of Facebook groups that are all female Navy or all female Marines. And the response was the same. It feels like it was almost more, so females have, of course, a different way. I mean, we have a different way of caring. Men are more aggressive. So I've had a few patients that came across that were also very upset about this, of course. I mean, mostly males. I barely have any females, as always. And it was more of an aggression, more an angry, more aggressive type of reaction. And females is more of a sadness and more of a grief and regret, and just almost like an emotional confusion, like they don't know how to handle it, because they're geared more towards almost, even if they're not a mother, more like a maternal instinct. Like they know the children and the women that we have helped through all these years in Afghanistan, and now they've lost everything that we worked for. And not only that, but those that have not deployed to Afghanistan still felt the pain in a way that they felt like that they were not either important enough because they weren't part of it and they wanted to be, or that they didn't know how to handle these emotions of, why did we lose all these people if this is what happened at the end? And why, mostly of the comrade thing, why did we lose all these comrades? Why did we lose all these fellow service members? And then those that have children or that did work with a woman, why did we do all this to build all these women and children up, give them this hope that they had a future, when all of a sudden it's all gone? So it was a very interesting mix of emotions from the women, from both Navy and Marine Corps side. The male side was just a lot of aggression, like, what, this is using a lot of curse words and just wanting to just beat people up, all these things about mostly focused towards the enemy. The women were mostly focused towards the collateral, what we call collateral damage, the women and the children in the communities. So it was very interesting contrast, but it was a very common reaction amongst everybody, which was a very not a common phenomenon you see happen amongst everybody.
So and Gloria, just what you've seen and stuff. What was you thinking when you saw this unfolded for whatever? Did you have any thoughts, whatever, seeing this happen?
Well, it was a little different for me because the Navy, at the Naval Hospital, I wasn't around any of the other facilities. You had Fort Meade and Fort Belvoir and Quantico, where there's Marine Corps, where there's Army. So the Navy, I was isolated. So I didn't see any of the other military types, and I was around more civilians at the Naval Hospital in Bethesda than I was military. So other than the military personnel that I interfaced with and interacted with at Bethesda, I didn't have that interaction. I didn't see the women like with Pearl Harbor. At Pearl Harbor, you had a lot of females, a lot of women, a lot of nurses. Entirely different back here. So, and
that's interesting because I felt the same way at the hospital now. So because I just transferred from the Marine Corps, I still feel pretty Marine and connected to the Marine Corps. I felt the same way what you're describing right now because I'm working at the hospital here, and I didn't see that around me. But I felt it and I heard it and I communicated with my own people outside of the hospital. So it's really interesting you say that because I think it's you're like you said, you're kind of isolated when you're in a hospital because you have other things that you're dealing with.
Right. I didn't see any women doctors. All doctors were male. They were either Navy doctors or they were civilian doctors.
Right. Same thing here.
And that's another thing about dynamics also. Israel has much changed. You said when you were there, Gloria, they had all male doctors. How is that now with you, Julienne, where you're at? I mean,
same thing. I think maybe there's 3 female doctors from what I've seen in the hospital right now because I interact with them often. Majority males, white males. And then when I'm not gonna lie, when I see a black doctor or just any man or woman of color that's a doctor, I'm like, wow, it just throws you off a little bit still to this day, which is so sad. It's so sad.
At the Naval Hospital in the 60s, from 60 to 63, black females were X-ray techs.
Yeah. Yes.
But
still,
other than that, they were all male. There were 2 black hematologists. One biomedicine, but other than that, it was white. Even Bethesda, the town itself was white. We were told by the Navy, if you go into Bethesda, if you see a sign that says no colored, then it means no colored. Don't even go in the store. We can't protect you from those citizens that might harm you. We protect you when you're on the grounds of Bethesda Naval Hospital. But when you're in downtown Bethesda, you're at the will of the city police or somebody that might be kind to you.
And, again, what's funny is that I feel like I get that sense still. Like they may not have the signs, they may not be allowed to be overt about what the discrimination is, but it is interesting because that is still the feel and the sense that people get over there. That's sad. It's sad, not just interesting, but it's sad.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things I really don't want to get too ahead of the women in the town hall is because of that disparity. And you got a lot more women in the military now. And so there should be.
Yeah, you should be.
They should be correlated, so we got to ask. I'm sure they mentioned like, wait a minute. When I was doing it, like the MST, and I think you and I talked about it, Dr. Chen a while ago. military trauma, but most of the guys, you may find yourself with a male counselor or psychologist, and you just had MST, and you're like, what? I want a female. And so we got to, that's something. I don't know if they're going to mention that in the town hall, that they may want to see more women,
right?
Counselors or psychologists or whatever, or even, because or the intersectionality. You just mentioned that there is the majority, but then, if you're African American, Hispanic, whatever, it's more complicated. So I do want to ask you about that. I had this town hall. So do you think there's value in it? And if not, then what would you think to make this town hall, worth it, instead of just another old town hall? Move on. And I'll start with you, Gloria, because I want to see where you started and where you're at. So you're going to be at this town hall. So why did you decide to sit there and sign up for this town hall? Was it because I begged you, or and then what makes it successful?
Because, as Julienne said, you don't have the mentors. You don't have I'm not interacting with any of the female woman that's chairing a major committee. I'm not interacting with most nonprofits. They say that they care about veterans. They say that, we're a resource, but they're not really. They are not really. Montgomery County is a very wealthy county, and they think everybody else is wealthy. They don't admit to the poor, to having low income. When you talk about affordable housing, a 1-bedroom apartment at $800 is not affordable. No. When you say that, veterans get a disability, they have to budget that money just like anybody else. If you have a car and you come to the outpatient-based, community-based clinic, if you can't get all of the services that you need in Montgomery County, you got to get in your car, you got to get on a subway, you got to get on a city bus, and you got to head into DC to the VA hospital. You might be on the road all day. Nobody's feeding you. We now, under this COVID, we are able to provide them with a swag, what we call a swag bag, that has some health bars in it, some fruit, something that they can eat on, nibble on during the course of the day. But, when a car is almost on empty, or you down to a fourth of a tank, you can't be running out of Rockville into DC. No. You got to decide, maybe I won't go today. Well, does that mean you get prescriptions filled? Does that mean you won't see the psychologist? Does that mean you'll miss your appointment for seeing about getting your benefits increased? And
Dr. Shin, so what do you, and then
this town hall, just what's being discussed.
Right. Agreed, ma'am. Agreed. I think
Go ahead.
It sounds like resources and access. So I know that a part of the I'm not a big fan of Facebook, but it's been a really good connector. So I've been able to help people through them a lot. Facebook, female Marines, especially young ones, and Navy. I'm not part of the Navy the junior ones yet, but there's a lot of female Marines that get out and they have no idea they don't have mentors. They don't know where to go. They become homeless. They have abusive relationships and marriages, and they've never found mentors. And this is now. I had this problem back 25 years ago, and it's still happening. I feel like with this town hall might be helpful to provide those kind of resources, or at least inform and have people go out and provide those kind of, knowledge, because another factor is that we are a bunch of proud people in general, especially if we're in the military. There's a certain kind of type of personality that goes in the military. And if you're a woman and a mother, your level of pride becomes a little bit, you want to know that you're a good caregiver and caretaker, know what you're doing. There's a lot of them that get out who they're just in the streets. They're living in their cars, or they come from abusive marriages and they don't know what to do about it. And they're Facebooking. And I'm like, why are you Facebooking? Thank goodness there's Facebook, because they've been people that have been able to provide them resources from other states and tell them, hey, this is what's happening in this state, reach out. And they had no idea. So it's these resources, I think, that would be the most tangible benefit. if we can provide that to female Marines or female military in general, and service members, veterans, to make them feel competent about who they are and remember where they came from, that they are military, they made it through the military, they have the competence, they have the capacity to get through this, but someone needs to help them and remind them by providing them with the right resources, because you can't just go succeed if you don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
as a mentor, that's what we're I mean, especially, ma'am, like you and I, we know where to go. We know what to do. We have the mindset to do that. It's people like us that need to be out there in public and say, hey, this is what's available. And if you need to ask questions, feel free to come to my door and ask me. And that's what they need, is to feel like they're not going to be shamed, or they're not going to be looked down upon because they couldn't figure out how to feed their child. I mean, that is a shameful thing as a mother, but at the same time, you need to go to somebody to be able to get the help you need.
And Gloria, you had mentioned that, and you're a part of the Armed Services and Veteran Affairs Committee chair for your area. So that means you've seen the women veterans in your community. What have you seen?
Oh, I've seen the same thing. I see. Look, and pandemic really intensified the disparity and the loneliness and the isolation and the abuses in families. When you have soldiers, male or female, that are suffering PTSD, and then they got to be at home, closed in with kids and dogs and neighbors, and it's overbearing. The suicide rate, depression, it's horrible. It's horrible. But we have citizens that don't understand. Well, why? You know, they can go to the clinic. No, you can't. You can't go to the. It's not a one-stop service.
No, it's not.
And Dr. Shin, you're in also, we're hearing a lot about the military sexual traumas, a month ago, that's all you heard. You know, they had the General Austin had this review team go out there, and they're putting some bills coming through about military sexual trauma, trying to get it from the military, the commanders, to get into an independent body. So what have you seen out there when it comes to military sexual trauma? You know, some of the barriers of these women. And MST is both a male and a female thing.
Yes,
it happens to both sexes, but you hear more about from the female part. So what? And you're part of it now. So what have you heard? And as a Navy, I mean, I don't want to get you in trouble because you work for Navy, but what have you seen when it comes to military sexual trauma? And I'm wondering if it's going to come up. I know it is. It's going to come up in the town hall as well. But what have you seen out there when it comes to MST, Dr. Shin? As
far as service members or veterans?
Yes, servicemen and veterans.
So the active duty side I always tell people, don't believe what you see in the news. I mean, it never reflects what's actually happening in the underbelly of the military. And I love serving my country and being able to develop, mentor, and protect people that I take care of. But at the same time, the system is still working itself out. The system is still trying to figure it out. And a lot of it, there's probably an opinion that it's my opinion. I'm gonna have to say that a lot of it is politically driven still, and there aren't enough, I guess, financials and finances, time, and personnel, manpower, which is so sad to say that those three things are one of how they start with how important this is going to be to continue pursuing. And then when you put the layer of psychology of, hey, they look at women like, well, they're just complaining, or even when we talk about male MST, the most I think pressing thing with males is that they don't want to admit that it's happening. So that is something that's a stigma that needs to get past that. And then the second thing is that women are just there's a stigma against women, that maybe that they're just complaining anyway, or they're just they're just overthinking, or they're just being too sensitive. I mean, there's so much stigma. And I have two or three Black female patients who said the same thing about, I don't want to be that angry female, Black female. that they keep assuming I'm going to be. And that's still a thing, which is so frustrating that they have this stigma. And that is a stigma that happens with females in general, but with the Black females, it's even worse. It's still that, oh, I'm going to be that angry Black female again. So it's these stigmas that still need to be worked out, and it's going to take effort. It's going to take one person at a time, like right now, like people like us, that's going to do it. And we have to keep doing it. And that's where empowering women and Ellsworth, what you're doing now is just amazing, because it's helping to keep this hamster wheel going. We got to keep going and going, and you got to keep pulling in all these women to keep on doing it, so we don't, like, these other women don't feel like they're alone doing it. The more we feel like there's a group of us doing it, we are empowered. And then we can keep this going and make it a bigger and bigger thing, where it becomes so big that they can't ignore it. And the stigma becomes just destroyed. But that's where a lot of the issues lie, is the stigma against the male MST and the female MST. And then people don't want to say anything. And it becomes a bigger issue mental health wise.
Do you see the same thing, Gloria? I'm sure you do.
Well, to come back to civilian is difficult too, particularly for women. If you were in combat, you come back and you're looking for a job. Well, yeah, there might be plenty of jobs in the area. There's no one to help you navigate how to take your skills, knowledge, and abilities from the military and transfer that over to civilian life. So if you come and you get a job right away, if you go to the unemployment centers, workforce development centers, they see, oh, you do good in construction, you'll do good work on the highway. Well, you take a female that left home because of abuse. She was abused in the military, not only by military people, but by the contractors. Then they come out, and then they're working in a hostile environment, facing abuses and sexual harassment. So they got 4 generations here within a span of 4 or 5 years of nothing but abuses.
It's a cycle. Yep. And people are not being educated on this.
Right. But then you've got people that are at these various departments, like, I'm not pointing the finger, of course, at our departments, but I'm talking about across the nation, departments of health and human services. You've got people that are in these positions that don't understand the dynamics of the military. And what it is that women, and even in some instances men, what they're facing when they leave the military and come into civilian life. It's no different than somebody that has been incarcerated and come out on prison reentry programs, and here all of a sudden you face it all over again.
Exactly.
You were discriminated against in the courts. You were discriminated against when you were locked up, and you're discriminated against when you come out. Same thing with military. No difference.
Cycle.
It's a cycle, and there's a common thread. I've had 4 women to tell me they're not filing a complaint. They'll put up with these landlords and maintenance people that come in their units during the day, and they know military people fold things certain ways. We hang things certain ways. We place things even on a table a certain way. We know when it's been moved. We know when it's been touched. So they know when somebody has been in their apartment and moving around and going through their drawers of their intimate apparel, their underwear. They know. But who are they going to complain to? You complain, and then it's, well, do you want to move? So they told me, they said, oh, no, Miss Gloria, I'm not filing a complaint, but I just want you to know that these are the things that are happening. But I can't lose my apartment. I've got a child.
It's basic needs. Basic needs.
One of the things I hope from this town hall is that we need more, and I know we say women and men, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes the man can be just as helpful as a woman. It's like, we always say, Gloria, about, just because they're skin folks, mean they're kin folks. So there's some women out there that that could be, against you. So, what do you think about? And you're up in the East Coast. What about women veterans being more involved in the politics or in the leadership roles? Because right now, I think we only got like 3 or 4 women veterans in Congress. I don't know how what it looks like in the local area. So, what do you think about that? About encouraging more women veterans to run for office? And I'll go with you, Gloria. I know, Gloria, you're in that political world.
I know, and you mentioned that at the reception today. Whenever the NAACP has a reception or a dinner, all of the politicians come. It's time for folks to re-up as council people, as a senator, at the state level, or congressman. What have you done for me lately? That's what I want to know. Why should we vote for you again? What are you going to do this time that you didn't do the past 4 years? You didn't take up for me with the past administration.
Right.
It was okay for them to talk about taking away my rights, taking away Social Security, cutting my benefits, cutting food stamps. I can't feed my family. So if you didn't do anything about it the 4 years or the 8 years past, what are you going to do this time around?
Right.
And so, how about? And I know you're still like, and that's one of the things too about when you're in the military because I was military for like 20-something years, 24 years. So you're not really you're not really engaged politically.
Right.
Wherever you live, you're not there long enough to really make a difference. You're there 3 years, you're gone. And now, Dr. Shin, you got to now be more mindful.
Yeah.
About that. So, what do you think about encouraging more women to be in the military, or at least being talked about?
I'm sorry. More what? What was the question? Sorry.
More women in the political force.
Oh, yes.
In the political world, or at least having the issues talked about. I mean, they're not even talked about most of the time. What do you think?
Yes. So there's a lot of the non-government agent, what is it called? Non-government NGOs. Yes. So I've been a part of those in the past, and then I also encourage them to still continue that now. And I've actually mentoring a few sailors who have expressed interest in becoming officers, and in other routes within the government to make a stronger impact on both women and people of color, and also of the gender aspect. So there's that, the gender spectrum going on right now. So it's been something that I advocate for strongly, and I mentor them. I offer my mentorship at all times, and they've always taken it up. And even though I can't pursue that route right now politically, it's something that I will probably do after I retire completely, whenever that is. But right now, those younger ones that I can see their grits and their tenacity and their desire to make a difference. And you can tell when those that are really they're thirsting to make a change on the policy level and a higher level in the government, to make a change at that level. I've been able to at least put them in the right direction, because it's about who you know. So like, ma'am, like people like you, I might even, if it would be okay for you to refer them to say, hey, why don't you talk to this, this wonderful, amazing woman, to get you kind of on the right path and give you more ideas. I think I try to get to know as many people as I can from many aspects of my life in order to make that connection for those that might want to go in that direction. So knowing people like you, ma'am, always is so helpful for me to be able to advocate and mentor those younger folks that are interested in doing that kind of policy advocacy leadership role, because they don't know what they can do. And I'm also finding, unfortunately, those that are of women of color don't think they can do it. They think they don't have a place for it because they don't see somebody like them. So it's been helpful for them for me to be that gateway person, because they see me as a person of color that's a psychologist, an officer, been in for this long, and I'm trying to make a difference. And I'm kind of like, I've been kind of like they're like the first time that they can see that they can go somewhere higher when they are. And so when I talk to them and figure out where their interests lie, a lot of these strong young women are looking to go that direction. And I'm like, well, you know what? The military isn't all there is to being a policy changer, a law changer, a community and society changer. There's more to that. So I give them the option beyond the military. And this is why it's helpful for me, what I do personally is to make these connections and give them education and knowledge and awareness of their opportunities. And that is, I think, is another obstacle for a lot of these young women, is they don't know what the opportunities or choices that they have. And that's, again, where the mentorship comes in, is people like us sharing that knowledge.
And it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
You've got to start off at the grassroots, find people of like minds that have the same
Yes.
kind of concern and issues, be it
Mhm.
NAACP, Urban League.
Yeah.
I got into, when I got out of the military, I got involved with the League of Women Voters. Let me tell you,
Oh,
those
yes.
women in the League of
Yeah.
Women, they're issue driven concerns, they're advocates. You learn all about the
Yeah.
people that are in office. They have like a report card on
Mhm.
everybody.
Mhm.
So you just can't wake
Mhm.
up one morning and decide I want to be in politics.
No.
Or you
No.
can't wake up
Mm-mm.
in one morning and decide that the policy and procedures that come out of certain offices
Right.
are unfair or unjust, or there's not a level playing field. It takes a while.
It is. And this is probably another thing that would be good for the event that you're holding, is maybe providing people of this kind of knowledge to give people more awareness of what they can do outside what they're already doing. That might be another tangible thing that you can provide for people that attend this
Mm-hmm.
event.
Mm-hmm.
Great, and I appreciate that. That, and I keep saying it because I'm thinking about it. That even though I know that there's a likeness between you and Gloria, that there are some really good men out there that are there that we
Yeah.
can't get along
Oh,
with too.
absolutely.
Sometimes we get too, even as
Absolutely.
African Americans, we get so focused on the skin that
Right.
we miss blessings.
I know. Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, I know there's little, you got to be cautious about it, but I'm like, man, don't just think that the mentors look like you. Sometimes they don't, and
True.
they're just as genuine, just as sincere.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
I'm just saying it because I mean, I just, again, I just say that it's important you guys get together, ladies get together for the likeness and stuff like that. But I don't bypass somebody who may not look like you that could be a great mentor.
No, this is where I say the knowledge and the opportunities comes from anywhere. If you could
Mm-hmm.
just give that to them, it doesn't matter who it's coming from. It's for them
Right.
to be able to learn beyond what they already know. Because a lot of these people, a lot of these young ladies and even men, boys, I say boys, but they didn't realize the things that I've educated them on, the opportunities, the help, the resources. They didn't realize that until I told them that, because no one bothered to
Right.
tell them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
time went by really fast, and I want to give you ladies the opportunity to have a parting comment. And part of that comment, you've already touched on the town, which is really great.
Mhm.
And as we close, I wanted you to give me one thing you want me to focus on. And I tell you, we haven't talked about it, but I will. When I created Veterans Council and Veterans, I knew there was a big time lack of support for families of veterans. It's like
Yeah.
back in the day when we came in, they said if the Army wanted you to have a family, they would have issued one. And if you look at the VA, they will take care of the veteran. But when that veteran's not part of the equation, you're not part of the equation of the family.
Right.
So I know you guys, ladies, have mentioned that. I'm definitely that's one thing I want to talk about in our town hall is for that mother that's homeless. I mean, this is statistics up there. Homeless women, most of them are women of color, and most of them got kids. And most homeless shelters won't accept kids or whatever.
I know.
But that's just Tony thing I want to focus on. But just as you're in closing, just mention one thing you want me to cover out. You've already mentioned several of them. You don't have to, but if there's something really bad on your mind, Tony, cover this. I'm taping this, so I'll see it. And then parting thoughts. And we'll start out with the Gloria again, then we'll end up with Dr. Shin. So one thing you think I should be focused on the town hall, and you'll be there, Gloria. So if I don't do it, bring it up again, and I'll definitely go in. So one thing you think I should cover.
Often I feel that there needs to be a support groups, more support groups. And in areas of concern, you really have, a lot of things are data driven. You have to find out really from them what their needs are. We can't assume what they are.
No.
We need to know what they need most, and then there should be NAVVETS is one of the organizations that could do that. Do surveys, find out, not long. Nobody wants to fill out a long survey. Key in our survey cards are just about this size. You find out just what it is that they need, and 4 or 5 things, and then if you have enough people to put together a support group for those, whether it's housing or additional medical care, health maintenance and wellness, nutrition, just even how do I go about getting access to food stamps? I mean, some people look, you mention food stamps and it's like it's a dirty word.
I know.
Yeah. So we have to know from them what they need and then provide support groups, because no need of having somebody sit up in a group and they're talking about stuff that doesn't even relate to them.
Yeah. So support groups definitely. And Dr. Shin, any one thing you may think that I should cover? I know you mentioned a bunch of that.
I think it's really important to just ask them to check in with themselves. Ask them, how are you right now at this very moment? How is your mental health? Because that is the baseline. How we're going to be able to we can't grow unless we can handle who we are and how we're feeling at the moment. So that is really, I think I would start with that, is how, or end with that. How are you right now at this very moment? Check in with yourself.
Right.
And if you can't say that you're all right, then I think maybe you need to reach out to somebody. I think that is probably that's where we need to start.
So self-care and support, and of course we have issues. I really appreciate. So I really appreciate you ladies taking the time to come out here and having this short discussion, needed discussion.
Right.
We can actually go on for forever because there's so much stuff going on. And I hope that we'll stay in touch throughout the time. Veterans Council of Veterans. We don't like. I'm not expecting less God. There's my vision, there's God's vision. So I'm expecting somebody, a women veterans, to get together, become a coalition, stop trying to do it by themselves. It won't work. Become a coalition, play the long game, not the short game. Play the long game, because this is what it's going to take, and get involved in your local politicians, because they're the ones that set the policy. If you just talk to a bunch of people that all they do is just pick up garbage, you waste your time. You got to go out to those town halls, and you got to go out to those meetings where the politicians are and say, hey, I want my voice to be heard. Thank you, ladies, again. Thank you, Dr. Julienne Shin.
It's great, Julian. It was so wonderful being with you.
It was an honor, man. We'll have to chat again. I'll pick your brain more.
Yes.
Yep. And I'm here too. So thank you
so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Connie.
Okay, guys, ladies, I'll see you guys later. I appreciate it, and I'm going to give a closing comments, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
So there you have it. I just had really two great guests. We have Gloria White Gardner, who went in 1963 during the time when it was legal to be discriminated against women and men at the time. And we also got a chance to talk to Dr. Julienne Shin, who is actually in now. And what I thought was interesting, a takeaway, is that there's not much of a difference between 1960 to now when it comes to the amount of women in the medical field and counseling, psychology. And my other big takeaway I got from both is mentorship and support groups. So hopefully we can get that message across when we have our town hall on the 30th of September 10 to 12. So there you go. There, please. You won't be able to sold out, so you won't be able to get a ticket, but you can definitely go on my Facebook and log on Veterans Council of Veteran Inc. If you sit there and go on Facebook and look at Veterans Council of Veteran Inc., you'll find me. You'll click on it, and you'll be able to still watch the show. Well, this is Tony Williams from Veterans Council and Veterans. See you on the 3rd of September, 10 to 12 at our town hall. See you then.